finding the bottlenecks and how to
You are still too short of the required in-person.
I see that. Yeah, we have 4.
Start things, I think. Something else.
Is Heritage Days this weekend? Heritage Days this weekend?
They have a good band, and you can dance if you want bands. So, pretty good band.
All right, everybody. We are at our scheduled start time. So I will call to order this regular meeting of the Monroe County Solid Waste Management District Citizens Advisory Committee. This is the third Thursday of May. It's the 19th, 2022 at 5:15 p.m. We do not have, we do actually have the vice chair present. Rondi, would you be able to call roll?
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Eric, can you make Rondi a co-host, please?
There we go. And again, if you could talk right into the microphone so it really speaks out in the room.
Okay, sure. Can everybody hear me? Joseph Winia,
Here.
Rondi Cox, here. John Arnold. Ryan Conway,
Present.
Ryan Edwards. Mason Greenberg. Lily Kleinlein.
Present.
Bradley Lucas,
Here.
Andrew Manley,
Present.
Nelson Schaefer, Paul White,
Here.
Morning Wilder. Okay, let's see, what do we have? I don't recall, do we have quorum, or do we not have quorum if we don't have that many in, if we don't have 6 in person?
It's the latter. You're correct. We are
Okay.
without quorum without having
Okay.
in-person quorum.
Well, yeah, I mean, the key component is that under the current hybrid open door law, you have to have at least 50% present in the room. So,
Which we do not have, but we will proceed with the meeting anyway and forego the items for which we need a vote. So that said, I will share, if Tom, you wouldn't mind enabling screen sharing for me.
Eric, I'm sorry. Can
He should be able to share.
Joe
his
Winnie
screen.
as a co-host, please?
I think you should have the ability to share the screen. Hold on.
It's currently providing a host disabled participant screen sharing message. Oh, now it's up. Thank
I
you.
don't know why it's not letting me do that.
Okay. So this is the proposed agenda, which was distributed by email and uploaded to Dropbox on Monday, the 16th. But in an exchange with Tom following the distribution of this agenda, there is a time constraint which required a reordering of the agenda items. And I also discovered that I had missed a carryover item from last week's meeting. So in lieu of proposing this agenda, I would like to propose instead the alternate, which is shown on the screen share. And it has the tire recycling agenda item, which was under new business, now following the approval of meeting minutes. And then it also adds the new staff position, item number 2, to agenda item number 6, the unfinished business and general orders. So with that described, is there any objection to adopting the adjusted proposed agenda as shown in the screen share? And seeing none, that agenda is adopted. We will, however, forego the approval of meeting minutes since we do not have a quorum to do so. And that will bring us into item number 2, tire recycling, which Paul, if you would be so kind as to introduce this item as the requester.
John Porter, who's not here, who wanted to be, he and I were talking this past week about tire recycling, and I was asked what he did, and so on. And he charges at his tire shop a fee for disposal. And he cuts the outside. If this were a tire, he would cut the tread part of the tire off into a ring, and then they can be disposed because they don't hold water. Some of the things that we talked about, these tire rings, the one that stands out in my mind was you can take the tire rings and excavate or drive a post around. You can put the tire rings over this. You can put dirt in the tire rings and safely dispose of them that way so that they're not holding water, so on. But he said that there are other states where they use these tire rings as part of the base for roadways, and was kind of wondering why we could not do that here for driveways. Put them in there, and kind of the same, it's my understanding, kind of the same idea from what he was saying over the post. You put the tire rings down, you fill them up with dirt, and it keeps the dirt from moving out and about in a way, kind of holds it contained to give you a better base for the roadway that you're building. It sounded like a idea that would be worth looking into, and that's as far as I've taken it. Was just the discussion that I had with him. We also talked about how you actually dispose of a tire, and after he cut the rings out of them, then he would send them away. somebody else takes care of them. He said a tire grinder costs about $1 million. And you can do, I think he said 2.5, 3.5 million tires you can grind with them before you need to put new motors. Wasn't the grinders, before you needed to put new motors in the machine to continue it on. And you could charge whatever the disposal rate is, I don't know, $5 a tire, whatever. And it could be a draw, multi-county wide, where we're not the only county that has issue with how do we properly dispose of tires. So we weren't discussing on who would buy any kind of machine, who would operate it, and so on. We're just talking about the bottom line of this, how it could be done. And the idea hit me, it sounded like a good idea for a government, private collaboration to take care of waste tire problems that we are having. So if we'll just say that as a waste district, we could do something of that nature. We could get tires coming in from different counties, different tire retailers, wholesalers, whatever. And even the tires that we find out on the road that need to be taken care of because we have the machine, then that, I was thinking, you know, that our tax-based problem or issue could take care of those particular tires that we don't know what to do with when we find them out and about. So in a nutshell, that's what John and I were talking about. I thought it sounded like something good to delve into and maybe research. He said we would have to have a place to store the tires inside so they don't get full of water and that kind of stuff, and a site to do it. And of course, Anderson landfill always keeps coming up. We've got a nice building there. I don't know how much it is being used, if it's being used. But just to have a facility to do something like that, it sounds like a reasonable idea anyway. Maybe don't go any further than that, but it sounds like a reasonable idea. And maybe everybody, private industry and government could be a winner this way.
Thank you for that introduction. I think I'll first see if there are any questions from members on that summary. Andrew?
Has John Porter spoke with IDEM at all about this proposal?
I do not know. I know IDEM has talked to him about disposals.
Okay, I was just going to say, I would recommend reaching out to Lori Freeman. She's with Industrial Waste Compliance at IDEM,
Okay.
and she is sort of the waste tire czar of Indiana. I'd recommend reaching out to her for whether or not that would be regulatorily allowed, but also she may have suggestions on ways it might be feasible.
Okay.
Thank you, Andrew. Are there any other particular questions?
Just a quick question. After the tires would go through this grinding process, what the byproduct, what is done with that? How is that disposed of?
Well, the rubber that you grind out of tires, I think most people know that we can use those for playground bedding, for, you know, around slides and swings and so on. So when kids fall, and kids will fall, that they've got a nice cushy bounce to it. There's just, I think there's lots of things you could probably, I would think anyway, be able to recycle the rubber into new tire rubber. I don't know what all is available for that, but there seems to be, at least in the past, a good source for using these rubber grindings.
I think I do have a couple of thoughts or a couple of questions, actually. First, I am interested in knowing, do you know if John has any plans on moving forward with anything in particular at the moment?
At the moment, I don't know. He sounds very interested, though, in moving forward with this idea.
Okay. And then my second question is, I'm interested in hearing from Tom about impacts of that notion on the existing district's tire recycling motion or movement, which so far has already released a request for information earlier in the year and had no feedbacks and was rolling forward on being able to collect tires for distribution to recycling facilities rather than managing the recycling process, which I think is already a good role for the district to play, and would like to get Tom's input on, I guess, the next step or the impacts of this discussion, if you have any in mind.
Well, I mean, in light of this showing up on the agenda, that did initiate some discussions with our legal counsel. And given the fact that this has come up before our board has taken any action with regard to the district establishing a waste tire program, he was uncomfortable with moving forward with that and recommended that we pause, reissue the request for information and give Mr. Porter an opportunity to formally respond to that with whatever his idea or proposal is, or how he thinks, the district accepting waste tires would impact his plans with regard to that or his existing operations. So it's gonna pause or delay the district moving forward with accepting waste tires, which is fine. I mean, we'll, happy to work with, with any local business that wants to partner or has a better option than what the district is considering. So we certainly want to hear, hear what his ideas are and what he has to say. But it is going to put a delay or a pause on us moving forward with accepting waste tires. And just, to expand a little bit, I'm aware of what he's talking about. And the district didn't consider going in that direction on its own. I mean, there's a lot of regulation and a lot of cost associated with that. I mean, that to get that grinder and operate it would require a permit from item. In all likelihood, you would also have to be registered as a storage facility. You would probably have an excess of 1,000 whole tires on site most of the time. So that's the district didn't consider moving forward with actually processing or moving forward with looking at processing waste tires, primarily for those reasons, the cost and the regulation. Then since you mentioned the landfill and the building that is out there, I will, and I apologize if this, maybe I take for granted that people understand and interpret what we're talking about. But that building has previously been discussed with the board. Unfortunately, we had a small fire at that building a year or so ago, and result of birds nesting inside the walls. And having some repair work done, and welding spark fell down in the wall, and poof. So the building is damaged and in disrepair. And the immediate estimates we got to repair it were in the $25,000 range. And no, it's not. We're not really doing much with it. There's a few pieces of equipment in there, some of which have already been declared surplus, and we're waiting to get them to auction. So at this point, the plan, and there's actually money in the budget this year to demolish that building and try to sell or scrap the metal. So.
Thank you for that update, Tom.
I can't see that item regulation would be any different, whether it was a government operating or private industry, because
No,
the issues are going to be the same regardless. I would think that if we wanted to pursue this thought process for a while, it might be good even to reach out to other waste management districts, just to tickle the interest to see what kind of interest and even what kind of participation other than tires that they would be willing to invest in.
well, I mean, we have talked with other districts, and none of the neighboring districts to us accept waste tires on a regular basis. They generally do one or two events, what they'll call amnesty days, and they'll contract with one of the local tire haulers or tire processors that are registered or permitted with the state. They'll bring vehicles down, trucks, and residents can come and they'll bring tires and they get hauled to a permitted processing facility. So none of the ones that I talked to had any interest in moving away from that and collecting tires on any sort of a regular basis.
Thank you, Tom. Were there any other questions from members? All right. Seeing none, I think that can conclude our discussion of tire recycling for today's meeting. And we can proceed on to reports from the district. If you are so available, Tom.
Well, kind of just gave one. So,
Okay, yes.
yeah, I mean, yeah, this, the previous discussion item is going to pause our, I was looking at moving forward with establishing a waste tire collection program. We did have that prepared to go to the board at the June board meeting, but I'll have our legal counsel review this discussion via videotape. We'll probably reach out to Mr. Porter. But in all likelihood, we will probably wind up reissuing that request for information and give Mr. Porter a chance to respond to that. And again, public-private partnerships, we're certainly not opposed to those at all. And if he's got a proposal in place that would be a better, more efficient way to move forward, we certainly want to consider that. So in all likelihood, that's what'll happen with regard to that. And then on other items, just for general knowledge for everybody, we do have a contractor lined up for those customers of the rural sites. We're going to get those lots. Hopefully, depending on weather and schedules, but in the next couple of weeks, get all the lots at the rural sites with some fresh gravel laid down, get those raked and graded out, and hopefully give people an easier time as they travel through those sites in their vehicles. Not much has happened on apartment recycling since since our last discussion on that. We are still the portable, whether it be a trailer or looking at getting a truck, but the portable idea that Mr. Manley brought up previously is still something that we're looking at. And I think as has been discussed, whether it's establishing a permanent facility or getting some sort of a portable unit collection container, obviously that's going to have the district reassess its staffing needs, and probably will lead to needing an additional staff member, which gets into budgeting and something we have to look at the finances of being able to not just take on initially, but continue to be able to fund and support on an annual basis. Don't want to get something started, have to stop it a year later, obviously. So, And other than that, I've been kind of a hectic day and a little frazzled right now, and I can't think of anything else, but I will jump in if something else comes to mind. So,
That works. Thank you, Tom. Are there any questions from members on that report? All right, seeing none, I will note that I do not have a report from the chair in particular, apart from what would be pertinent to the following agenda item, which is reports from special committees. I was going to start with the IEG subcommittee, which Mason is leading, but is not present to update on. So I will note that scheduling is in process and we will be meeting on Monday evening, if I recall correctly. So that is the status as it stands now. And I will weigh in on the rebranding committee, which is that there was not an executive committee meeting held in April, or no, that would have been for this month, so for May. But the establishment of the subcommittee at our April CAC meeting was brought up during the CAC report at the board meeting last week. So board members Cheryl Munson and Isabel Piedmont Smith expressed interest in participating in that subcommittee. So I did just want to check in with you, Tom, to see if you had the opportunity to reach out to staff to see if there was any interest in participating from members or from, staff members beyond Elisa.
No, I have not. And I really, other than in passing, haven't planning on sitting down with Elisa tomorrow to go over, her participating with the committee, the subcommittee on the rebranding. But I would like her to be a part of that. And I think, and she's aware of that. So we'll get that all lined up, but I'm not aware of any other staff members at this time. And depending on, I don't know that there's a need or, unless rebranding starts to go down some specific directions or paths, there's probably not really much relevance for other staff members to be involved.
Noted, thank you. So in that case, I think it would be appropriate to proceed with scheduling a timing poll then with the participating members. I know Mason also expressed interest in participating in this subcommittee since he was absent during its establishment at last month's meeting, but he is again not present to follow up on that. So I'll mention that here for reference. And that's all that there is to report on the rebranding subcommittee. So that concludes item number 4 on the agenda. We have no special orders, but we do have general orders carried over from last month's meeting. The first of which is the signatures for the resolution 2022-02. I see that none of the members whose signatures are missing are present. Tom, did you happen to connect with any of them in the interim time?
Not since the initial email went out.
Okay.
Lily Kleinlein did come down and sign the one that she needed to sign, and have had email correspondence with Adelaide Petroviu, who has since resigned, and we'll make arrangements with her to get an electronic signature, or we'll find a way to get her signature on the resolution she needs to sign.
Excellent, thank you. And also, I missed the opportunity to ask, were there any questions on reports on special committees? I know there wasn't much reported on, but still want to provide the opportunity. All right, seeing none, we'll resume with general orders. The second of which was the new staff position that was discussed during the joint board CAC meeting in April, and is an opportunity for the CAC to discuss, I believe it was at the very least a description, like a job description for the activities the CAC would be interested in seeing this role serving. So with that, I think I'll open it to members to begin a discussion or make any proposals.
Tom, does the district make their own job requirement descriptions? Or do they use the same corporation or company or consultant that makes job descriptions for the county?
No, historically, we have done our own.
Okay. Thanks, that's all.
So I hope that was an adequate lineup for the agenda item. I don't know if everyone had the chance to review the joint meeting. I know there were only a few members present, and that's where it was primarily discussed, but we can also have a general discussion about the notion of that role if there's still any unclarity among members about what the role would entail or what the discussion entailed. All right, seeing none, I will note that a couple of the items that I think would be important for a staff member in this position to fulfill would be particularly a strong supporting role in the implementation of the 5-year management plan in, I think, whatever capacities the district and the CAC and the board agree are. And that would be decided dynamically by those bodies. Well, obviously by the board, informed by the CAC. And I think also an active waste reduction role would be an important, I know it's an important component of the management plan already, but I think even aside from the management plan could be a good skill set to focus on in terms of being able to, one thing that board member Piedmont Smith mentioned was having the capacity to engage at the administrative and institutional level for reaching some of the bigger generators in the community with a waste reduction message and tools on behalf of the district, which I think would be an equally as important role as fulfilling the 5-year management plan goals and objectives. Again, I know they're specified within, but making sure that that remains a priority in spite of whatever the management plan layout is, to make sure that that's also happening. So those are my 2 thoughts. I didn't write a description for those to propose to the CAC, but those were the types of considerations that I was thinking and was interested in hearing from other CAC members, if there is a new staff position, exactly what it is we would like for them to do. And that's what I see as the 2 most important capacities that I think the district could really benefit from having a full-time person focusing on.
Yeah, I agree that implementation focus could be a huge part of this. I mean, that does sound like a job in and of itself because we're coordinating across multiple bodies. And this, waste districts are conglomerate governmental bodies anyway as special districts. And so it's already coordinating across institutions. And so that's a lot of coordination. A lot of information problems can arise if we don't have fluid communication or single points of contact. So this person could be a hub and nexus to communicate with the various stakeholders so that the burden of that isn't always on Tom exclusively, especially vis-a-vis implementing the plan. So if we could just have that coordinative function up front, then, I mean, we could probably more rapidly and effectively move through our objectives. And if there are stumbling blocks for any of the objectives, we'll learn them quicker because that person's attention is going to try to implement. And then the second they start to implement, they'll run it. Theory will meet practice and feedback will come from that. And then maybe the plan can be a living document in some respect or just be amended occasionally, or maybe they run into a number of blockages and they make a list, a category of them. And then we're like, well, we need to update the plan based on all of these things that we found. I mean, there are many ways that we could keep them implementing the plan, but it just sounds like an administrative burden for the administrators and for the board to have to keep up with the details of the plan. But we spent all the time on the plan, and plans are good and they work, and we have them for good reasons. So I really do believe that really is a core function for a new staff member.
Thank you for that, Ryan. I definitely agree. Are there Any other members who have new thoughts or want to weigh in on those thoughts?
Let's see, what,
Yes, go ahead, John.
so how soon do they want this person to start? And is there, and are we going to be able to have the person work with us on our projects then? It sounds like we are, aren't we?
I mean, this is all very, preliminary right now. There's been, no thought given to when this position would actually be established and let alone get filled and have somebody up and running. But it is something under consideration and certainly something that the board wants to take into account, the possibility of this position take into account as we're right now getting started on preparing the 2023 budget.
Yeah, because you'll have to put a line in there if you're gonna have the person hired, so. But anyway, it sounds like you're getting well underway with it, so that's good.
And I will note, John, to the second part of your question, I anticipate that because this will be district staff, this would remain analogous to the other district staff relationships where it wouldn't be staff time spent directly participating in CAC projects so much as the district and the board managing the staff per its current practices, and then the CAC continuing to just serve as in an advisory capacity to that position.
Well, that makes sense.
I mean, I would just add to that, that yes, you're right, but don't rule out the possibility. I mean, there are times where, staff has dedicated time to assist, either whether it's doing some research to provide data that, that we may have or that the state may have. So, it's, certainly the positions, the CAC would not be a primary function. Supporting the CAC would not be a primary function of that or any position, but that doesn't mean that they can't act in that capacity if it's needed and there's time available.
Okay. That is good to know. Thank you, Tom. All right. Are there any other questions or comments on that item? All right. Seeing none, I think that concludes our new staff position subpoint. Lastly was attendance, another general order from our April meeting. Something that I had just wanted to point out was worth noting two parts. First is just attendance history, and that it's something that's continued to be problematic in the past with achieving quorum and something that we're experiencing right now. I know we have sufficient members, just not in person. And I think there may come a point, depending on how this trend continues, that would need to be addressed in terms of members not meeting the minimum expected requirements of attendance, and that being prohibitive to our ability to do business. And the second component was just in terms of, again, managing the assurance that we have quorum as often as possible, in particular through the effort of the attendance planning sheet, which so far has been met with mixed success. It was introduced at a meeting without quorum, and so there was never an official adoption of it. It was just kind of a let's go for it, and only a few members were present. So now that there are at least more of us present, though we still don't have quorum, I would still like to get member feedback on the viability of using this, because presently it's equally as helpful as it is a hindrance, because it doesn't serve the purpose it's designed to, and it is still a time commitment, particularly from the chair's point of view, but also a difficulty from a membership point of view, where again, we're in a situation where we can't make any decisions because we're shy of quorum. So I know that there have been some last minute changes in this particular meeting, and I appreciate the outreach I've gotten for those, but I just want to open it up to see what other members think, starting with Lily, who has her hand up.
Hi, I was not at the meeting where the spreadsheet was created, but I just wanted to say I really think it is so simple to use. And I input after the meeting the actual attendance. And so I find it to be really helpful to track the after meeting attendance as well. So I would encourage those who haven't been using it. It's pretty simple to click on the Dropbox and edit it. And yeah, it is helpful to know if we're going to have enough people in advance. And unfortunately, I'm isolating this week, so I had to stay home. But I just wanted to say I think it's a really efficient and could be effective tool for us to use.
Thank you, Lily. Are there any other members who would like to share their thoughts on the subject?
I think it is a good tool, and I was one of the late people to fill it out. So I myself need to just get in the habit of doing it, or I might even start filling out a few months ahead of time, because I know looking at my calendar, so I should just do it. So maybe someone else, maybe there are others who want to follow the same practice, but yeah, I didn't mean to be late filling it out. But I do think it's a good idea, and it does help, because if we knew up front if there weren't going to be enough people, then it may make sense to cancel a meeting, and rather than just have 2 people show up hoping that others show up. So, which was, years ago when we went to meeting every other month, a reason for that was because we were having such a hard time making quorums. So fewer meetings, people may be able to attend more regularly if there were half the meetings. I'm not suggesting we cut in half, but it seems like it's been a long-term challenge of this group.
Thank you, Rondi. John, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, what is the current, let's see, how many members do we currently have, and what do we need for a quorum? It'd be more than half, I know, but.
So I heard the first part of your question, not the latter. We have 12 members, and then after that, I was not able to hear.
Let's see, and then we would need 6 for a quorum,
7.
right? Because we have to have 50% for a quorum.
No, 7. A quorum is over 50%.
Over 50%, okay.
You have
So we have to
the,
have 7.
yeah, it's the hybrid meeting rule that requires 6 to be in the room, and then for the meeting to officially occur, but for purposes of quorum, that 7th person could be virtual.
Where did the rule come from for it had to be 6 in here?
That's the state statute.
And I will take the opportunity briefly to share the screen just to make sure everyone is on the same page for what we're referencing. It's this particular spreadsheet that exists in our Dropbox folder and also has an instructional file for its use, which is in the same folder as this file, which is the attendance planning instructions here. And those are all present in the Dropbox CAC meetings folder. So there has been I've been providing the weekly reminder to make sure everyone is aware. And again, I would at some point like to make a motion to formalize its use to confirm CAC agreement on it. But in the absence, I think I will leave it at that with one more opportunity for any member input.
Good. And just and to add just another reminder, since related to all this, since we're talking, and I apologize that I don't have a firm answer, but I will get that for you from our attorney, because I'm not sure how this would apply to an advisory committee exactly, but within that same statute, it does also limit any member of a governing board, which the CAC does fit the definition of, but any member of a governing board to attending no more than 2 consecutive meetings electronically and no more than 50% of the meetings in a calendar year electronically.
So is that to say there's a possibility that those constraints do not apply, or you will need to confirm?
My first assumption is that they do, but
Right.
I'll clarify that with a legal opinion that I will forward to you.
Okay. Thank you, Tom. All right, so that concludes our unfinished business and general orders. John, I see you still have your hand up. Was there a remark you wanted to make, or was that? carry over?
Yeah, be sure and count me as present. I was here right at 5:30. I couldn't get the link to work for some reason. I had to really struggle to get it to link. I finally got it. I finally got in later than like 10 minutes later, I think, but I don't know what was wrong with the link, but it said it wasn't, it gave a real strange message. So I was trying.
Just to verify, was that the link from the latest agenda?
It was the one, Tom, you sent me this evening, and then I couldn't find, and then I had trouble finding another link, but I finally found one that would work.
Yeah,
So
I emailed him the link that, out of my Zoom account where I established the meetings.
Okay. I will just note for reference that every agenda has at the top of it the current Zoom link and location of each meeting, in case anyone needs to reference that in the future. So that will then conclude our attendance agenda item and bring us on to our new business. The first of which is a district public social that was proposed also by Mason, who is absent. So I will note, just for information's sake, that we had briefly discussed it, and he was interested in the idea of having more of an informal meeting of the CAC and the board and potentially staff, just since the environment has been strictly Zoom for so long that it might be nice to renew some relationships and get more acquainted in a less formal setting. So something to think about potentially. And the second item of new business was similarly proposed by Mason, who is absent. So that one I have less information on and can't speak much to, and we may just have to incorporate it into a future agenda. That concludes everything in the agenda as adopted. Are there any other new business items that any members would like to propose? Yes, Rondi, please.
Really just be a reminder relating to Adopt a Road, if you don't mind. Shall I go? Or I didn't know if I can just start.
Yes, please.
Okay, sure. So I had sent the members of the CAC a doodle poll just to enter your availability. Well, there are 4 options, 2 different days and 2 sets of times for each day of when we could do the Adopt a Road cleanup that we do. So if you haven't yet entered your availability, please do so. Or if you need me to resend the link, just let me know. I've heard from 3 people so far. So far we have 4 people who can do it on June 11th, but the options are June 4th and June 11th, either 8 to 11 or 9 to 12 on either day, just whichever works for the most people. So I think I asked that people reply by end of day tomorrow, so sooner the better.
Very good. Thank you, Rondi. And thank you for putting that together.
No problem.
Are there any other members who have any items of business they would like to propose?
I'm not a member. Could I did one thing that I did forget to mention during the district update that I did mention at the last board meeting and do also want to mention here. The district is partnering with MC Iris this year on their calorie pair eradication efforts. We are doing an event at the South Walnut facility with them on June the 18th, scheduled from 9 a.m. to noon. They did identify some calorie pairs on the property, and we have also requested if we're going to do this and we're going to be there, let's get all the invasives that we can out of there. So they are looking for volunteers for that event, and you can go to the MC Iris website to register for that, as well as other eradication events they have scheduled throughout the county.
Good to know. Thank you. All right. Any other items? Yes, Lily.
Wasn't really an agenda item, but I just wanted to share, we got back from a trip to Canada and we were in several of the provinces and it was just really interesting. We went to a grocery store and I saw everyone walking out with either tote bags or just stuff in their cart. And we got inside and we shopped at grocery stores and at a couple of Walmarts, and they actually don't have bags. They don't have plastic bags available. They have tote bags you can buy, but they had the little carousels, whether they're round at the self-check or the normal little bag holders at the normal checkout, and they're just completely empty. So every checkout lane is just 0 bags. And I know we've tried in Bloomington and we were dashed horribly, but I found that to be really nice. I also noticed that in almost every place we went, they had very clear garbage, recycling, and compost anywhere, public, hotels, out in the streets. So, I think I wish there were more we could do. I think that we're a group that's working toward that, but it was kind of cool to be somewhere where you could see the impact, and all people, all walks of life, all sorts of, people just walking out without any care that they didn't have plastic bags for their purchases. And so it was fun. And we're pretty stubborn in my household anyway about taking a plastic bag, but we were not the weirdos for sure. Everybody just abstained from bags because they didn't even have them in the store. And even in a shop like a store, like a shopping store, not a grocery, you had to pay for a bag if you wanted it. So very cool, in my opinion.
Proof that it won't be the end of the world. Canada's still rocking.
Thank you for sharing that, Lily. I think everyone agrees that would be nice to see here too. And we'll keep working towards that. Any other business items or announcements? All right. Seeing none, that completes all of our items of business. I see that there are no members of the public present, either in the room or on Zoom. So we will forgo public comment, and that brings us to adjournment. If there is no objection, this meeting will be adjourned.
What? No time extension? Come on.
Not this time. We operated effectively. Seeing none, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.